Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to be talking about model architecture today, more in our educational series of what the boring bull is and how it works. So let's get started. As always, we're going to open up with our high-level slide, but this is going to be a little different today. We're going to actually take deep dive into this slide a little bit before we get into the model itself. Again, at a high level, we're a quant investing website. What it tries to do is to take a variety of indicators and overrides to create the best odds of success. At a high level, we bring in financial information, mathematics, technology, and that helps us create a model to actually buy and sell stocks. So why is the website there? I always think about this when I look online. If your model is so good, why don't you just follow it and make money? And the answer is we do. But there's also a level of accountability, right? And so it's easy to get caught up into making decisions that, oh, I wouldn't have actually bought then. Well, in here, we have to follow the model, and it's online for everyone to see, so it holds us accountable. And that accountability, in my mind, allows me to make it better and then measure against other folks. And that certainly is something that we want to do. Now, I mentioned maybe taking a deeper dive into this particular slide. So one of the things we can do is that we can take this whole architecture and make it super simple. And this is just basic simple stuff here, right? So what financial information, maybe we just take the stock price, nothing else. From the mathematics side, let's say we just calculate a moving average, a 10-day moving average. And then we use something like Excel. And Excel can do all those calculations for us, and that generates a model for us. Super simple. When the price is above the moving average, we buy. When it's below the moving average, we sell. Now, sometimes people refer this to the moving monkey, but the reality is, while it's a super simple model, it's still a model. It still works. You probably can still make better than 8%, which is, the S&P return. So while people can mock the simplicity of some of these models, they do work. Of course, there's the other end of the spectrum, correct? What if we hit some highly complex financial information, like not just stock prices, market prices? We can use gross domestic product, consumer price index, the volatility index, sentiment, housing starts, unemployment. Really, seriously, we could kind of keep going on and on and on to figure out more and more and more information that you could bring into your model. Of course, with some of your advanced machine learning, you absolutely can do that, which of course takes us to mathematics, right? You can bring in highly complex, whether we're using a CCI oscillator NK, RSI, or a MACD, which is your, I think, is that volume? I can't remember if that's volume or not. KNN, which would be kind of like your K-series or your nearest neighbor, or other advanced machine learning techniques. That all can be done. Again, it could be done in Excel, but also we can go into AWS where we're using Python, we're programming in Java. We have a fully automated trading APIs that interact with companies like TD Ameritrade or Alpaca or someone like that. Again, super simple, highly complex, still follow the same architecture and how we define that. So when you see these four boxes, just kind of keep that in mind, that we could be talking something simple or highly complex, and it all falls perfectly. Now, what we don't spend a lot of time with in those other videos is, well, hitting the last box, right? We don't talk about, we just say model, and we leave it at that. And that doesn't really help you understand, what we're doing from the model perspective, at least from the architecture side. Again, architecture, just reminds you, is that 50,000 foot level. So we're going to take a little more of a deep dive into that last box there this morning. So the top part of that is obvious. You got to buy into something. That's buy into stock prices. We have to buy into the stock market. It can be crypto. It can be, bonds. It can be, honestly, anything. And you can have multiple models running simultaneously. We could have a stock model. We could also have a Asian market model. There's no reason why you can't have multiple models. The other thing the model has to decide is not just when to get in and get in, but also how much to get in. So how much of your portfolio do you put at risk? Is it an all-in or is it a partial in? Certainly on our model, we've ran the statistics, and 70% of the time you can get a better price by waiting. Of course, it's the 30% of the time that you don't get a better price that costs you. And the same thing on the sell side. Now, on the bottom, what do you see there? Well, it's supposed to be simulating dials, right? Configuration. No matter what model you have, all those indicators we talked about before had to have configurations set up. So let's look at, again, we use simple examples here just to make it easier from a presentation point. Maybe we had a dial that just defined what that moving average was. We never did say the length of days or the hours. So in this case, let's say we're doing days, we could set the configuration for our short-term moving average at 10 days. We have another dial that says, hey, let's put our long-term moving average at 200 days. And now we have our model. When the short-term moving average crosses the long-term, we buy or sell. But those configurations can be set with your model. That way, if 10 and 200 is not right, maybe it's 15 and 10. Maybe it's 150 days. But the important thing is that when you have it automated, you can actually take these dials and change them as you go along to try to get the best performance that you can. Of course, you do have to be careful of overfitting. And my advice on that, of course, is that the longer time frame you use, the less chance of pure overfitting are you going to have. So if you just do, I don't know, a year, then that's probably too short. No, it is too short. I use 33 years, and that way I feel that over that period of time we've had black swans, we've had ups and downs, and so it really kind of helps make sure the model works in going into the future. Now, of course, the size of investment could be a configuration variable too, right? You can set that at buy rate of 75%, or you could set it to 100% or 50% or whatever. And for example, in this case, that the moving average breaks the 200, you buy at 75%. Well, the next day, if it's still up, maybe you buy the other 25%. You're kind of giving it that little bit of a landing strip progress. The point of all this, of course, is that no matter what your model is made up of in the specifics and details, you're going to have configuration variables that you will be able to modify and set. And that way you can get a full picture of your model and increase and improve the performance without just saying, oh, it's got to be this. It doesn't have to be anything. So if somebody says you have to use 10 and 200, no, you could use 11 and 199. Okay, I mean, there's no rules in place that has to do that. Now, obviously, on the other side, on the sell side, it's very similar, right? You're going to still have your model. It's still going to have those collection of indicators. You're still going to have how much do you want to take out of the market? Is it everything or is it a little bit? And of course, what are you going to have? Your dials. And exactly. So what if we set our dial that we only sell when that moving average is below the short-term moving average is below the long-term average 2 days in a row? That way we don't get a quick spike and get caught with that. That's a configuration variable. Maybe our sell rate's 100%. Then if we get that signal, we get out. It's safer to be in cash. You certainly can set that. The whole idea, again, is that whatever variables you have, they're like little knobs. You can change them in order to improve your model and get the best performance based on the methodology that you're using. So those were obvious. The next one, maybe not so much. What we've learned going through our model over and over and over again was that just setting up buy and sell signals, which was very good, only gave us a certain level of performance. What we realized really quick was that we needed something to kind of override everything. There are certain kind of signals or factors that come into play that we would want a set that tells us to get in the market or stay in. So if we're not in, jump in. If we're already in, stay in, regardless of what anything else tells us. On the other side, of course, we have indicators or overrides that tell us to get out if we're in the market. If we're already out, then it says stay out. So get out or stay out. So these are actually very important and have greatly improved the performance of our model. Now, what are some examples of these overrides? Well, take for example that every transaction has to have a profit of 5%. Okay, that seems reasonable, right? What this would, especially if you have a model that oscillates in and out rapidly, why not set a maximum limit? You got to have a minimum profit of 5%. Therefore, if your model triggers a sell and you only made 4%, it stays in. This actual override here is very frequent. If you, again, on our Patreon channel and you're looking at the transaction overviews, this will come up frequently. You'll actually be able to see, oh, okay, we should have sold here, but we didn't because we had a profit override kick in and we did not get out. On the other side, there's actually in our model, there's more indicators on the get out side. Here's a couple of them that could be in place. A daily loss. Maybe if it goes down 10% in a day, that's obviously a black swan. You want to get out. You don't want to be part of it. Maybe you have a loss tendency that if you're down 30% in the transaction, you want to get out. You don't want to be down that far. It makes you too nervous. That could be a configuration. Maybe an extreme VIX, VIX above 75%. There's all kinds of overrides that you can put in place there, but the basic idea is that you have these overrides and they supersede the model itself. So regardless of what the model tells you, these things take precedence over it. And that kind of creates what our architecture of our model looks like. And then we put all the pieces together. It looks something like this. And so this model operates in a way that triggers buys and sells, determines the size of the investment or the withdrawal. And then, of course, we have our overrides in the middle to get us in or to get us out. And that's how these models work. All right. We're going to end this series. I tried to make them at 10 minutes, but it looks like we're going to be a little over today. Informational purposes only, obviously. We're trying to educate people. We're trying to get educated. We're trying to learn more as we go along. So we share what we know so that others can learn. And then, of course, we can learn from their experience as well. Anytime you do investing, regardless of whether it's mutual funds or crypto or these models or these transactions, there's risk. Okay, we do buy on leverage, and we'll have to do a video at some point and talk about that. And so that it's going to make our gains much more greater, but obviously it accentuates the losses as well. So basically be careful, recognize the risk in these things, and kind of do it with your play money, if you will. All right, that's it for the day. That is the model architecture overview.